Hi everyone, Mr. Tobin here again, and in this short video we're looking at the Paul Durcan poem Madman. This is another of Durcan's two-line poems, but as you may have seen in the analysis video of his other short poem, Un Famille 1979, there is plenty that we can say about it. As always, I will start with some background specific to the poem itself, then read through and finally go through some really strong ideas that you can include in your essays. So, this poem references a father, and Durcan's relationship with his own father was a very strained one. Durcan says that his early childhood, spent mostly in Dublin's middle-class Dartmouth Square, was a pleasant one, of which he has fond memories. He says that he was a very excitable child and enthusiastic, and he said that for him, the day was never long enough. His father, John Durcan, was a circuit court judge in Mayo and Galway, but remained living in Dublin, travelling to work every week and staying in hotels. Durcan says that he remembers from very early on a sense of disapproval from other males, that boys should be a certain way and he didn't fit that mould. His father, he says, called him a sissy, and from the age of around 10, their relationship deteriorated further. In an interview from 2007, Durcan said, "When I think about it, there were gratuitous beatings, and he was incredibly severe about things like examinations. If I hadn't got second or third place, it was bad news, and sometimes he would take the strap off his trousers and beat me. A man has to be so very complicated if he takes a school report for a 10-year-old that seriously." Now, while this poem isn't necessarily autobiographical, it's difficult to ignore Durcan's own relationship with his father when we read it. So let's take a read through. Every child has a madman on their street. The only trouble about our madman is that he's our father. So the first line here is a broad general statement. There's a sense of inclusivity, prompting readers to think about their madman, the crazy person, for whatever reason, on their street or in their park. It's interesting too that it's specifically a child who has a madman. Perhaps he's suggesting that adults, with their understanding, politeness and social conventions, wouldn't describe someone as a madman. Or maybe they understand the reasons behind the madman's behaviour, whereas a child just sees the actions. Once the reader has been prompted to think of their own madman, the one from their street or the one that they can imagine, the second line delivers the hammer blow. The trouble with the madman, the speaker is saying, is that he's their father. Now the reader is prompted to take the image of the madman from their street in their mind and bring him into their home, into the place of their father. The speaker is really asking the reader to imagine the shame and embarrassment, perhaps the fear and danger too, of that madman being their own father. The word our in the second line is interesting because if the speaker was simply speaking about himself, why doesn't he use my? This opens up the number of possible interpretations, which we will look at now in the things to discuss. This is a really impactful poem. Despite its brevity, it really manages to capture a sense of humour, nostalgia, but also something menacing and rather dark. The opening line, phrased as a general statement, is engaging and brings the reader in to consider their own childhood madman. The colon at the end of the first line forces a pause to let the reader's own ideas of their madman strengthen before the second line brings that image of the madman on the street into the home. This is a really wonderful poetic technique that creates a sense of discomfort in the reader. Imagine if that madman was your dad. There are a number of possible interpretations here too. The use of our at the end opens up the possibility that the speaker here is talking about himself, and by extension, perhaps Durcan is talking about himself as the father. Perhaps he is the madman on the street and he is writing this poem from the perspective of his two daughters. Alternatively, the focus on the word our through the use of italics could refer to the Our Father, the Lord's Prayer, one of the first prayers that Catholic children learn. Durcan is well known for criticising the Catholic Church and its power over Irish society in his poetry, and perhaps this is a reference to the Church and its abuse of power. The Church, compared to a madman on the street, could fit well with the hint of menace in the poem's mood at the end. I hope that you found this video useful. Please subscribe to the channel and check out some of the other content that's up there. If you have any questions or suggestions, then please leave a comment and I'll be happy to answer them. If you've gotten this far, then thank you and keep an eye out for the next videos.